Hi everyone. So I talked this morning about doing the Marie Laveau video and I thought, okay, let me just try to get it in today. That's what we're gonna do. I get questions about Marie Laveau a lot because I am a Marie Laveau devotee. So usually what I get is people will see the photographs of my altar and they're always asking me who the woman is in the red headdress. The headdress is called a tian. It's spelled Tignon, but the G and the first N are silent. Marie Laveau was a free woman of color. She was what is called an octoroon. So she was 1/8 black and 7/8 white, and she is our most famous voodoo queen. Our current voodoo queen is Sally Ann Glassman. You can look her up, and she runs the Isle of Salvation Botanica in New Orleans, and it is where the current Marie Laveau shrine is because the diocese now have control over Marie Laveau's tomb, which made a lot of people upset. But personally, I think it's a good thing because you now have to hire a licensed tour guide to go see the tomb. And I think it's helping to preserve it. I know everyone likes to go visit it and likes to like take pieces of it and write on it and everything, which is traditional, and leave offerings. And you can still do some of that, but it was degrading what I consider to be a national monument. So I don't have problem with there being a fee now. So you don't have just Tom, Dick, and Harry going through there all day and all night, slowly making it deteriorate. The Catholic diocese has control over that. It's a Catholic cemetery. She was a Catholic. She was born September 10th, 1801, and she passed June 15th, 1881. So had a very long life for somebody during that time period, especially a woman of color, even though, like I said, she was only technically 1/8 black. Back to the tian. So the tian is, there's a couple of, so the people in charge of the laws at that time required free women of color to cover their hair with a tian. So it's, part of this was some women of color, like Marie Laveau, because of their percentage of race, were so light and so fair, it was difficult to distinguish them between white women. And this was a way to subjugate and make separate free women of color in order to stop them from fraternizing or being involved in higher society or higher classes of people. So it's, while the tian is like a very, something we're always going to associate with her, and that's, you're always going to see photos of her with that on, it wasn't necessarily for a great reason. In one way it was because she had her freedom, so that was, it distinguished that. But like I said, as I just explained, it was to stop her from being confused with white women. So I have a couple of, the reason I gave you her birthday and her day of death, a lot of devotees are people who want to work with her or honor her. So those will be very special days for you to maybe keep on your calendar and make sure that you do something appropriate for her at that time. And I'll get into that in a little bit. So there's a recent book that just came out by Denise Alvarado, who has a lot of great books on New Orleans Voodoo. So this is The Magic of Marie Laveau. I highly recommend it. I'm done reading this one, but I marked a lot of pages just because I really like Denise's work. So I highly recommend this if you're interested in Marie Laveau at all, especially, I would say, even if you're interested in the history of America, this is a great book for you to read. It's because this New Orleans Voodoo is something that is so unique, to our, it's so unique. It's our own sort of, and hoodoo going along with it, It's our own folk magic that was born right here. It's the only one that I'm aware of that was born that was sort of born right here from an amalgamation of American Indians, and you have Black slaves, so you have African influences, and there are many other influences too. There are some Jewish influences, there are some Irish influences. Um, so yeah, so it's very interesting from a historical standpoint to learn about it. The other book I have is the New Orleans Voodoo Handbook by Kenaz Filan, and excuse me if I'm slaughtering that name, I don't mean to. I actually carry a lot of books by this author in my Botanica. If you're at all interested, I do sell these. So this is really great. This just doesn't cover necessarily Marie Laveau. This is all sorts of New Orleans information, New Orleans Voodoo information. So I think the other thing that I get asked a lot besides about her statue, you'll notice she's usually in blue or the color purple is associated with her. So you almost always see a white, red, or maybe like a cream, like off-white tian that she's in. So one thing you can do if you are honoring her on a specific day is you could do like a cleansing process, and spiritual cleansing often involves a head covering. You'll sort of take like a purification bath. A great one to start with is just boiling some peels of oranges, lemons, some fresh rosemary, fresh basil, and fresh mint. So you'll boil that on your stove, say maybe about a gallon of water. Maybe boil it for 5 or 10 minutes. You don't want to destroy the achet or the nutrients in the herbs and the peels. You can strain out the pieces if you want to, the solid pieces, or you can leave them in, let it cool, add it to your bath. So that's a great purification bath to take before working with her, or really before any ritual or any communing with any deity. So you taking a bath, anointing your head with some type of oil and covering it with a clean cloth. We see this all over the world as a means of purification. So it's not disrespectful. It's not. It is very, very common, and it's in a lot of cultures and a lot of countries around the world that this is a step in purification. So you could use a conjure oil like I sell in my shop. You could use some shea butter. You could use some coconut oil. You could use olive oil, plain olive oil, if that's what you want to do. So that's a great first step. Setting an altar for her. So she worked as both a beautician and a nurse. So a lot of people petition her for healing because of that. She was renowned for having miraculous healing ability, I should say. And then working as a beautician, that is often how she sort of got like the dirt on the people in town. And honestly, I think of her as more just very sharp and witty, and just really, I think that it was her personality and her skills of listening and putting things together and memorizing things, and sort of, what was going on with who, and then using that to her advantage, honestly. So because of course we all go to the beauty shop, and then, how everybody sits in there and gossips, everybody talks about their problems and who's doing what and blah, 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 blah. So I think that was a real advantage of hers running the beauty shop. And I think the nurse aspect tells you a lot about her personality. Not that, at the time she probably didn't have a lot of choice in her professions, but it is clear that that her personality definitely opened opportunities for her and made her so well known. It is said something that she had, I believe at the time, like 1,800 devotees of all colors in New Orleans during her lifetime, or I should say at the prime of her lifetime. So it was very common to have races mixing during that time for her rituals, for her meetings, for her events, whatever you want to call them. And I would say if you're gonna do, if you want to set an altar to her, I have always found that. So if you visit her grave, at least this used to be the case. It's probably not anymore since the diocese have taken over. But if I have a blog post on this, so if you go to conjuredcardia.blogspot.com, you'll find my blog entry on this, and you'll see photographs of her tomb prior to the Catholic diocese taking it over. So you'll see, and you'll notice a lot of cosmetics, so lipstick tubes and compacts and perfume bottles and things like that. So that's very, very traditional for her because she was a beautician. Now, in a way, it kind of makes it look really messy and kind of like people just put their garbage there. But I think it's mostly tourists who leave the cosmetics because they start learning about her and they just leave something that they have handy in their purse or something. A more traditional offering, I don't want to say more accepted because I believe any offering that you leave with honor and respect will be received. But a more traditional offering, I remember when I was there, I took some cigars and I had taken a bottle of the Marie Laveau perfume that I make for her. And I had sort of used the perfume to anoint some spaces, and I had left cigars, and I don't remember what else I left the last time I was there, but I remember a guide coming by at the time, and he commented how um, the cosmetics were typically left by tourists, and things like the cigars, the hot pepper, the food that was left were left by people who were actual devotees of her. So you could sort of feel out, you could tell who's there and what they're leaving. You can sort of tell their relationship with her, how advanced it is by what they're leaving. So cosmetics not a bad choice. I would say something like maybe a small mirror would be better, like an old, maybe vintage compact. Would be better than versus like the plastic ones. I collect the old vintage ones that are refillable. Well, they're not anymore because we don't do things like that anymore. We just throw stuff out. But you can find them for maybe $5 in the antique stores. They're little brass compacts. They have a mirror on one side and they'd have a refillable place in the other where you could put your pressed powder. And if you're lucky, sometimes you still find them with the pressed powder and the applicator still in there. I've noticed that she really likes those, and that's sort of, I really liked them too. So that's sort of something that we have in common, and I sort of collect them for her and myself to sort of share. Um, so another thing is her perfumes. Sometimes you'll see perfumes left to honor her. I've noticed that she prefers very sweet smelling perfumes, things like jasmine, lang lang, sometimes some lavender. The oil I make for her has notes of lavender and bergamot among some other things. So probably like the sweeter and more cloying, the better, is what I have noticed. I have never seen anybody use or make anything for her that was really earthy or musky, nothing like patchouli or no wooded scents, nothing like cedar or anything like that. So I would stay away from those. But of course, and I should have said this to begin with, this is your journey and it's your experience and it's your divine intuition that's going to guide you. If you try something and you feel it was really well accepted, then keep doing it. It's your personal relationship, and nobody can tell you how to have a personal relationship with a divine, with a deity or a spirit. That is just not something that other people's opinions need to really weigh in on. I'm just telling you what I have found to work for the last 15 years that I have been devoted to her. So her colors we talked about, I think I mentioned a little bit before, blue and purple are typically what she's dressed in. I don't believe there, in my research, which I've been doing research for 15 years on her, I've never actually found any actual photographs of her. You can find painted portraits and sort of other portraits that were made. You can find photographs of her daughters. Is also some discrepancy there. How many daughters she had, how many were named Marie, where exactly they're buried. There's some discrepancy there. There's some missing information. As you can imagine, at the time, I'm surprised what we do have recorded about her. I'm surprised we have that because I just don't think at a time it was probably uh, people who were doing the reporting and journalists and people in the newspaper. I don't think it was probably their priority what was going on with her. So I'm glad that we have the information that we do. So again, like blue and purple for an altar cloth, you could always use lace. I found that she likes really feminine things like that. So a white lace or a light colored lace. Um, this is my Marie Laveau banner up there. You can see it hanging. I got that when I was in New Orleans on I don't remember which visit. Um, so I tried to, for a while there, I was coming back every year to work. And of course, right now I'm not traveling anywhere, but I hope to get back into that habit. So I'm trying to think of a few more details I wanted to tell you about her. So she was a beautician. We touched on that. She was a hairdresser specifically. I'm sure she did other, maybe some cosmetics or things like that. Um, the snake she often had in her rituals. The name was Zombie. Um, I would say that it's a significant part if you have an affinity for serpents or snakes or you're comfortable with that power. um, Anything snake representational to put on her altar is good. Snake skin, if you can get a snake skin or a snake shed. Another thing that's sacred to her is a whole alligator head. You can find them like preserved taxidermy whole alligator heads. You can buy them online, or you can also buy them down south in certain places. Um, so another thing, fresh flowers, like I said, anything really feminine and sweet. So I think fresh flowers should be left for any deity whatsoever, or any spirit that you're working with. But in particular, I like to offer her fresh flowers. I have some old antique vases that I use for her that were made sort of during the period that she was alive and that I think that she appreciates. Um, Incense, I like to burn copal incense for her. I think that it really helps with communication and connection, but any sweet incense is also acceptable and will work just fine. Um, yeah, so and then going back to like candle colors, you can do white candles, blue candles, purple candles, and then of course you can use whatever color candle for whatever you're working on at the time. She was very well known for helping with legal matters. She worked very closely with lawyers and judges and people who had court cases so that they would win their court cases. She worked very closely with the police. I don't want to say which way she was working with them, like for or against them. I think that really depended on the matter and the case. Like I said, she was really good at um, persuasion, I think, and working avenues to her advantage. Um, yeah. So, and also, Mojo bags and Grigri bags. So that was one of the things she was famous for, is having Grigri bags that she would sell for that were very, very expensive to purchase because they worked so well. So if you have a Mojo bag or a Grigri bag that maybe you haven't used in a while, or maybe you're just making one, it would be a great thing to sort of set an altar to her, just because she's really the one that's made that practice really acceptable, okay? Because she was someone who invited all colors and all races to her events and to her rituals, and she worked with all classes and all races. And her Grigri was something that she was well renowned for. So I think that if you were starting to make a Mojo bag, or maybe you had one that's you haven't really worked with in a while, activating it at an altar set up for her would be a great way to sort of activate that again, or activate it for the initial time. I have a blog post on Nation Sack. No, is it on Nation Sacks or is it Mojo Bags? Um, I think it's how to how to feed a mojo bag. So that's also on my blog, www.conjuredcardia.com. And that will tell you how to activate a mojo bag if that's something that you want to do, perhaps in her honor or with the use of her energy or her aid, her spirit. Yeah, so other than that, it's really, she likes cigarettes and cigars, tobacco, but that's pretty common. I like to leave her really dark rum. That's also pretty common on an altar. That's not really anything terribly new. So I don't think I think she's very accessible as far as spirits go. Um, and like I said, one of the great things is that she was such an accepting person and wanting to spread her traditions, her cultures to all different types of people. And regardless of class or race, whoever needed help, she was willing to work for them, obviously for a price. But so I think that that's something that should be taken into account when working with her, is that she was so inclusive and was really trying to um, make these traditions evolve and make them sustainable and make it so that everybody knew about them and was accepting of them and wasn't fearful of them, or at least had a healthy fear, but wasn't, but, she would, teach people how to make their own grigri and things like this. So I think that that's a very important part of her personality. Mhm. Okay, sorry about that. I got interrupted. It's like the day for interruptions today. I was interrupted on my live. I think I've been interrupted on every video I've done today. So, yeah, I don't remember where I was at, but I think I was getting across whatever I was trying to get across without being too redundant here. A few more things that I know that she likes are alligator teeth. I do offer these in my site. These are some really large ones I've collected over time. I really love alligators and the spirit of alligators and that animal. Hyjon roots, that's always a great thing to offer her. Always a great thing to, when you offer her rum, to take a little bit of it and like bless your Hyjon roots, sort of sprinkle and cleanse them. Another thing, because I think cowrie shells in general, I've noticed that she's fond of seashells. That's why I involve them in the Marie Laveau perfume that I make. Um, I can't tell you exactly where that comes from, other than sort of just that inherent, like the water around Louisiana, the traditions crossing the oceans. I would guess it's got something to do with that. I've never really like pinpointed why that seems to work so well. But these are some purple top cowries that I have that she seems to really enjoy. Um, yeah, oh yeah, and money, coins, especially coins from all over the world, because like I said, her spirit is one of such connection and diversity. Her background was diverse. Um, Obviously her racial and her cultural makeup was diverse. So I think whenever I go to different countries or I travel to other places, any type of anything there that represents money or prosperity, I bring back to offer to her. So that's another really great thing, is just coins from anywhere that you pick up, even coins that, say you were in New Orleans and you purchased something for her, for her as an offering, and you had some leftover change, just to leave that, because it's the sort of energy exchange of being in that city and around her energy and leaving it for her. I think it's really important to think purposefully about transactions like that, and what that means spiritually, energetically, what we're exchanging. So yeah, I hope that this was a little bit helpful of some of the ways that I use to set up altars to her. And there are, I think it's always best. There are some prayer cards out for her that have a pre-written prayer on them, but people always ask me, like, what's a good prayer for this person? What's a good prayer for this spirit, for this deity? The best prayer is the one that comes from your own heart that you make up. It's the one where you sit down and you speak clearly what you are grateful for, who you are honoring, why you are inviting them into your home, what your goals and aspirations and desires are. That is always going to be the best prayer you could ever pray. It makes no sense to read other people's prayers or other people's words that they wrote when you have your own specific needs and goals and ways that you want to honor somebody and things that you want to be grateful for. So always remember to include that also. If you're going to do, set up an altar and maybe do a spell or do, some type of ritual, make sure you are always offering something and that you are always stating your gratitude first, because humility will get you a long way, and so will gratitude with the spirit world. Nobody wants to be asked for something all the time and giving nothing in return, giving no respect, no honor, nothing physical in return for your skills or your services or whatever it is that you're providing. So make sure you're always doing those two things first, that you're always giving offering and you're always giving honor and praise. If you're just sitting at an altar and saying, I need this, I can tell you this is most likely not going to happen, because you're not building a relationship, you're stating a demand. And for one, it's rude, it's insulting, and it's really just ignorant as to how the world works. So make sure you're stating your intentions from your heart with gratitude and praise and honor, and and you won't go wrong, and you will greatly enrich your spiritual path and your relationships with your deities. Okay, so I hope you all are well and safe and protected. Blessings to you and your families, and it's always a pleasure doing videos for you guys. I love hearing from you. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and make sure that you find me on Instagram. I'm going to try to get out more videos in the next month. Hopefully September I'll be back here, back to normal, excuse me, and watch for my live videos on Instagram as well, and my IGTV. Okay, so you guys be well, be blessed, be safe.